Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Onyx Tavern vlog series on Power Rangers Dino Charge. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today let's talk about Episode 7, Let Sleeping Zords Lie. Now, I gotta admit to you guys, this is a real good episode. I had a lot of fun watching it, and that's the best kind of episode, is when you can watch it and you have a lot of fun. Because a lot of times I'll just watch shows and I'll watch the episode and I'll kind of move on from it. But I would definitely say this is an episode I'd like to go back and watch again, just for the fun of it, not to do any type of analysis, but it was just, again, fun to go ahead and watch. And there are two major things going on in this episode that I think makes it great. One is obviously going to be better than the other. Now, first off, what this episode has is the introduction of a new Zord, the Ankylozord, which I can never pronounce dinosaur or Japanese names or anything right. I guess I have a lazy tongue. I don't know what the situation is. But in any case, they find this new Zord. And that's pretty much, I think, what people are going to remember most about this episode is the introduction of a new Zord. But this episode also has, within that plot, a new way of tracing Zords, information on how Rangers are created, a little bit more information about Energems and Dino Chargers and all that stuff, and we'll go ahead and talk about that here in a minute. But I think what makes this episode really unique and special is the character dynamic between Shelby and Dr. Morgan, because as we've established in the first episode, Dr. Morgan doesn't really like Shelby. She doesn't appreciate her for any of her talents or skills or anything that she has. I mean, she just kind of looks down upon her because she's, well, the waitress. And she really has no business being the Pink Ranger and everything. And it really says something in this episode where Shelby thinks she has an idea of how to track down the Zords, something that's a lot better than what they're doing. Because really what the Rangers are doing are just going to dig sites where they found Dino Chargers, or at least that's, or Energems. I forget exactly how they said that at the beginning, but they're just going to these sites where they've been before. But Shelby's just kind of like, well, why don't we just scan for them based on their energy signature? Which honestly is a brilliant idea, and kind of odd it came from Shelby given what we know from her in this episode, but I think we're not giving her enough credit, much like Dr. Morgan, is that we're kind of seeing Shelby the way Dr. Morgan sees her in a lot of episodes and not giving her, again, enough credit here. So she may be smarter than she appears. In any case, she approaches Dr. Morgan about this, and Dr. Morgan just kind of like dismisses her out of hand, but Shelby, in an episode, a scene where I just had to like go, damn girl, she like stands up to her, and it was very interesting. I almost kind of thought this scene would come like later in the series or in the second season when we get the Super Dino Charge or whatever it is. And it happened already in the 7th episode that she's able to stand up to Dr. Morgan in the episode. And I really like that. Not only does she stand up to her and, you know, tell her her idea, but Dr. Morgan's like, wow, you're actually onto something. So Dr. Morgan seems to have gained a little bit more respect for Shelby in this episode. Now, I will have to go ahead and say that by the end of the episode, I don't necessarily think so. Let me just talk about the ending real quick, because this really doesn't make a lot of sense and is very confusing. It's one of those things like, why did we put that in there? Now, so at the end of the episode, Dr. Morgan, she brings a gift for Shelby, saying, you know, for helping us with the finding the new Zord and come up with this new method, we have a gift for you. And it's a piece of your favorite dinosaur. And as we know, Shelby loves the Triceratops. And she opens it up, and what she actually gets is fossilized poop. You heard right. The gift that Dr. Morgan gives Shelby at the episode is fossilized Triceratops poop, which I believe is the first time we've ever said the word poop in Power Rangers. Yes, what a milestone. In any case, it seems to me that if Dr. Morgan really has respect for Shelby at this point, she would not give that to her as a gift, because as much as Shelby loves dinosaurs, she's still a person, and I don't think people really like getting poop as gifts. That being said, I wonder if this is something almost to like spite her or something and say, yeah, you might have helped out with us, but you're still not on the same level. I don't know, because that just seems like a very odd thing for her to go ahead and do. Thank you for helping. Here's some poop as a gift. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see this relationship develop a little bit further, and obviously, I do think there is still some animosity between the two at the end, that despite the fact that, again, Shelby was able to help with this new process, I think Dr. Morgan's still kind of like, but yeah, she's still waitress. She had one good idea, but let's kind of, let's not go crazy on it, I guess would be the way that we would go ahead and look at it. So I thought that was a very good aspect of the episode. And the fact that this episode has a single writer, Judd Lynn, I think speaks to that. Because the last couple of episodes that we've had where I've had some issues, that we've had 3 different writers on the same script. But since we have the one, obviously it's become a little bit tighter focused, makes a little bit more sense, and is not going in a bunch of different directions here. So I do like that. Now, the other part of the episode that's really good is this kind of backstory of what's going on with the Zords. Basically, what we learn this episode, and it's, I guess it's been brought up before, but it's made even more clear here, is that the Energems and the Dino Chargers are 2 separate entities. That basically, here's what happens. When a person finds an Energem, it bonds them, and they can, of course, become a Power Ranger. The gun seems to come with it. That doesn't seem to be something that is invented by, Dr. Morgan or anything. It seems like the morphine abilities are inherent within the gems, which tells me that the Energems originally started out as some sort of power coin item, basically. So somebody finds the Energem, bonds to it, and they become a Power Ranger. That also being said, once they bond with the Energem, then their Zord is awakened. And in this episode, we have the Ankilo Zord has awakened, and of course, Poisandra got a hold of it and put the little spike in it, which is why it was going crazy in this episode. Now, that's all well and good, but I like the idea that we have an understanding of once the Energem is bonded, then the Zord becomes awakened from being dormant. So it's not like we have the Zords that are wandering out there, and that explains why for the last 65 million years, the Zords haven't been doing anything. Now, whether these Zords are the actual dinosaurs from that period that bonded with the Energems, I guess that's what they're going for, but it wasn't really made clear, because I would like to understand that, yes, the Energem can make the person who has it stay eternally young. Again, that's what happened with Coda and all that, but does it turn dinosaurs into robots? And if that's the case, does that mean that our human friends will become robots at some point? I'm not entirely sure on that. The episode also makes mention that there is an Aqua Ranger out there, that somebody has bonded to the Aqua Energem, and that person has not revealed themselves as a Power Ranger. So not only are they going to be looking for Zords, they are going to be looking for Rangers, and I like that aspect of it as well. That, again, we got to find the Zords, and that's a great thing, but we have new people to go ahead and help us. And why they haven't revealed themselves, why they haven't shown up, that's going to be something to explore, that we can go into their character. Now, I do like how Keeper says how he has not has introduced himself. And as we know, the Aqua Ranger's counterpart, Kyu Cyan, was both male and female, depending on, who has the powers. I really doubt we're going to get a Spirit Ranger equivalent in this series, so I'm going to willing to bet that our Aqua Ranger will be female throughout the entirety of this series. And of course, that being said, it's just kind of funny the Keeper says he has not revealed himself, or it is indeed a she. So I'd like to see him actually look for a guy, and it turns out to be a girl. Expectations, it's male, it's actually female, comedy, I guess. So that's rather interesting. I'd like to go ahead and see that. Also, the search technology of how to find the Zords now. That's an interesting way of doing it. They're actually being smart. They're actually scanning for things, which Zordon did that back in season 1, but we really haven't had a lot of that kind of in recent ones. It's just kind of like, I think it's here, so go here, and happen to stumble upon it. But of course, they were lucky that the Zord was activated because the inner gem was found. I also want to go ahead and point out that even though I firmly believe there are several Power Ranger seasons that actually do take place in Japan, it seems to me that this season does take place in the United States, and I would argue to say that it takes place in the Pacific Northwest. And the reason that I say that is if you actually look on the map, when they go to look for the Zord, it does show, Pacific Northwest, Canada, and all that. That's where the Zord is. And I'm going to bet that because Dr. Morgan took the truck up there, that they're within a reasonable driving distance, I would say maybe less than an hour or so, and that is not in Canada. Otherwise, there would have been no way Shelby would have gone across the border with being in the back of Morgan's truck. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this series is probably based somewhere either Northern California, Oregon, or maybe even in Washington State, which is kind of interesting because we always assume that Power Rangers takes place in Southern California. Some people say it takes place, obviously, now in New Zealand, but we've established this is not New Zealand. And again, I do think there are several seasons that take place within Japan, but that's for another time. That's all I really have to go ahead and say about this episode. Again, it's just again, the two best aspects is, we have this understanding that we're going to be looking for new Rangers and how to find them. We have that established now, and we now have established this continued relationship dynamic between Shelby and Dr. Morgan, how Morgan has a little bit of respect for her now. Shelby's gained a little bit of confidence in herself, and just kind of see where that takes us. Not to mention, Dr. Morgan does seem to display some fighting prowess in this episode, which leads credence to her being the Violet Ranger as we get later into the series, so that's pretty good too. Alright, so that's all I have for you guys. I think I've made my point clear here. What'd you guys think of the episode? Was it fun? Was it good? Just comment down below. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.